from an absolutely pitch black Somerset here with the wind howling outside. It's actually quite appropriate for the Halloween season to be within the midst of rain and cold and wind. It's going to add to the atmosphere to talk about things that we've got planned this evening. Without further ado, we welcome today Andy Bourne and John Shackleton from the series Supernatural UK, but it's the at the beginning, the Supernatural UK. So what we're going to do is do a quick little bio of the two, and then we're going to hand over to the panel to ask questions this evening. It's slightly different than we normally would do. So this evening, John Shackleton is an accomplished and innovative filmmaker and director. He's known for his exceptional storytelling skills, clear vision, and dedication to delivering high-quality projects. John has produced hundreds of hours of unscripted television for prominent broadcasters like the BBC, Channel 4, and Channel 5. And in the role of series director and producer director for self-shooting, he's just done a few recent credits. So the ones that I'm just going to list off, it's only just a very few of them, is Dorset, Country and Coast, The One Show, and Britain's Most Expensive Homes and Chateau DIY. And Andy, as Andy Bourne, he often works as a self-shooting producer-director or just as happy as a camera and a drone operator. He's done most of his commercial work through his production company, which is Olaus Rowe, where he works and has a great team that produce motion graphics, VFX and post-production, as well as additional filming support. Andy has worked alongside John in the credits that I've just mentioned previously. Welcome this evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome, Andy. Welcome, John. So I think the first question really I need to ask is, when you've got such, a history of production for the BBC and Channel 4 and ITV and all these big names of the programmes that you've dealt with, what drew you to creating a paranormal series?
It was John's fault. To give you a short answer.
I mean, go on.
Take on.
When you work in TV, you work on a project-to-project basis. I'm a freelancer. So from a filmmaking background, I love to have sort of editorial and creative control, but over recent years, as budgets have got smaller in TV production, that role kind of gets squashed a lot. So you're responsible to go out there and get the story, work with the contributors, deliver everything for them to make the program, but then somebody else makes the program, not somebody else, a team makes the program in the edit and in post-production. So the opportunities to make programs for yourself where you have full editorial control are getting fewer and further between. So for me, there's an itch that just had to be scratched. I had to be in a position where I could actually make an entire program, and then beginning with that, we ended up making an entire series and moving on and beyond. So, I guess it's just kind of the opportunity, create your own opportunity to make something that you want and that you believe in. And that's where it came from, really. That's the itch that I'm scratching on a daily basis.
It's vastly different from your usual high expensive houses or repairing chateaus in France.
Yeah.
Did you have an interest in the paranormal from previous to this?
As I say, I've got a background in more fictional material. So as a freelancer, it's the feast or famine. So you're working on a series or you're not. And when you're not, I find myself writing screenplays for movies and TV dramas and so on, but they've always got that fantastical slant to them, and that's what I'm really interested in. And then I had a few experiences myself in the paranormal sphere, and then realizing that my accountants were paranormal investigators, that kind of piqued my interest at a time when I'd had a couple of experiences myself, and then I tagged along to some investigations, and then the whole, truth is stranger than fiction thing just kicked in. And I was like, hang on a minute, because I have all my own equipment, Andy has all his own equipment, and it struck me that together we're like a bit of a force that we could make whatever we want. So we just had to make something that was deeply interesting and fascinating and had a lot of potential. So paranormal it was, and that's the journey that we're now on.
Wonderful. And I'm very, very grateful that you guys have, because, it's refreshing to see new TV series coming in. So, Andy, let's start with you with this question. Obviously, we've got the big names of paranormal on American channels. What did you want to do so vastly different than what's out there at the moment? What had you hoped to achieve with your series?
I think, as John says, we're both filmmakers and storytellers, and although you say this is kind of vastly different than work we've done previously, we are very experienced at following stories and telling those stories on screen. So, in some ways, it did sit quite close to the work that we'd already been doing. And I think for me, we wanted to produce something of quality that was real and honest. So I'm completely new to the world of paranormal. I didn't know anything about it until John said, look, come along on this, check it out. You wouldn't believe it, So when I've watched a lot of stuff online, quite often you see sort of Americans running around with a camcorder, screaming, overexcited about things. And that's kind of not what we wanted to do. We wanted to be more honest in the approach we took. A lot more editorial goes into it. So, John will tell you about the hours of footage that we throw away just because it's not gone anywhere or the investigation's not panned out. We've managed to debunk, something that's happened, that we're just not using that content. So we just wanted to be more honest about it and try and keep the production qualities high and produce material that hopefully is entertaining to watch. It's fun storytelling. It is proper ghost stories based in reality. And just try and keep the quality high, and most of all, have fun, because on this project, we are our own bosses. We're just following the stories that take our interest, and then that's what makes it enjoyable.
And it's very similar to what we normally do, in the sense that we do sort of observational documentary-based stuff. So it is about giving people, somebody who works in a crab cracking workshop, for example, has a 15-minute film made about them and they've never been on camera before, never shared their story. That's fascinating, and that's what we do on a regular basis. So if to apply what we do that seems to work really well for TV, Channel 4, Channel 5, etc., to the paranormal space just seemed like a no-brainer for us. And it wasn't that we looked at other shows and went, ooh, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. To be honest, I'm as new as Andy is to the paranormal. We just kind of jumped in and thought, okay, let's follow the bouncing ball. Let's follow the story. And with investigators and things start to happen, we want to know more, and we dig a bit deeper and see where it takes us. But, really we are sort of documentarians, rather than we're not steering the narrative, or we're certainly not creating the narrative. It's being created around us. And it's infinitely fascinating.
Wonderful. Thank you both. And with that, for those of you that haven't seen the Supernatural UK, Christian, my co-host, is just going to run a little intro for you. So stand by and enjoy this reel.
I'm looking to, I'm going to share my screen to my panel over here, and I hopefully be able to share this trailer with you guys. So, on the screen.
Like a lot of filmmakers, I was drawn to the unexplained as a source of inspiration. But the deeper I've gone into real-life paranormal encounters, the more I've had to question everything I thought I knew. I now know that there is something out there and we can engage with it. Myself and fellow filmmaker Andy are inviting you to join over 10 episodes as we travel across the UK, embedding with real paranormal teams hell-bent on finding answers. Do ghosts exist? How do we communicate with them? What do they want? Well, we're either cursed or we're blessed.
Did you just hear that knocking?
But we've had remarkable experiences on every single outing. And captured it all through our documentary lens.
I've got chills. Yes!
What is happening? Leaving you to decide what's really going on. Welcome to the Supernatural UK.
I can't believe this is happening.
So the panel that we have tonight is Christian Lander, who we all know as the co-host. We have Randy Liebeck. If you could just unmute and say a little bit about yourself, Randy.
Hi, I'm old and bald and living through a storm right now. I am, from my accent, I'm obviously in the United States. I've been involved in anomalous phenomena studies since the early 1980s, mid 1980s. I'm a representative of the Society for Psychical Research on the Spontaneous Cases Committee, and I also do referred investigations on behalf of other organizations. So I am not a true believer in this kind of stuff. I am moderately skeptical, but I think people do have experiences, and that's what my interest is. What are people experiencing?
Thank you very much. We also have Mike Benbough Jackson. Please unmute yourself.
Hello. Yeah, the cats have just disappeared briefly, so I'll move around. Yes, I'm a historian at Liverpool John Moores University, and among the things that I'm interested in, apart from many aspects of modern history, are the anomalies that happen and occur in all kinds of places and all kinds of times. I have a limited... I am being trained up to be a proper researcher in the fullest sense of the word by the end of the year, but my experience in that regard is purely personal. As far as belief goes, well, I don't know, and I'm glad I don't know. So yeah, the more programs that are done like yours, the better.
Thank you very much. We have Paul Rogers, Dr. Paul Rogers. Apologies.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So my background, I started out as an economist many years ago. Got interested in the paranormal when my then girlfriend had an out-of-body experience. Went to Mysteries in Covent Garden in London, which was completely hooked by it. Converted into psychology, studied experimental psychology, research methods, and ended up doing a PhD with Richard Wiseman in his parapsychology unit in Hertfordshire. And then spent 12, 13 years in Preston as an academic researching belief in the paranormal. I came away from academia about 10 years ago. And in the last few years, I've been researching the Dodleston poltergeist case, or the Dodleston poltergeist and messages case, and gave a talk on that in the SPR about 2 weeks ago. So my view has become, I like to think of myself as a proper skeptic, by which I mean I look at the evidence and try and critically evaluate it. And I'm finding a lot of skeptics really don't do that. They just have a viewpoint and they stick with it. So the Dodleston case has really sort of changed my views on a lot of things in the last 18 years I've known Debbie. So that's my background, psychology.
Thank you very much. Christian, would you like to give yourself a little brief overview?
Oh, I'm just a minion. So I'm Christian. I'm the media and publications officer of ASSAP. I kind of do with all of ASSAP's media as such, in terms of our publications. So, of course, we put out a number of magazines a year, Seriously Strange, as well as the journal. And I manage and produce the webinars that you see on a weekly basis, of which this currently is episode 41. And we have so far done 261 presentations that are available, that everyone can see and view. There's a nice catalogue available on YouTube. The 2025 catalogue is available on Spotify onwards, and that will hopefully continue over course as we go forward.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm Caroline McKendrick Gibson, and co-host of the Seriously Strange podcast here. Also a writer and a researcher into true crime as well for TV at the moment. Channel 5 currently doing documentaries with those. So that's me. You all know me. It's not about me tonight. It's about these wonderful folk that we have with us. So Christian, let's head to you for your first question, please.
I guess my first question comes as a filmmaker myself. Ultimately, Caroline, in her opening ramble there, mentioned about the inspirations behind what is driving you. But I think two words stood out to me when you guys were talking there, Andy and John, is the authenticity. This kind of new wave in paranormal television in terms of in more recent years. I guess the most famous example more recently in terms of the UK is Uncanny. I guess you have like the Skinwalker Ranch. There's been a move in certainly paranormal productions to move away from the kind of most haunted format where you kind of run around in the dark and you kind of see what makes you jump to a kind of more grounded perspective. I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked at any of the paranormal program that's been put out there in more recent years, but did you find that that's what you deliberately did not want to do, was to kind of follow the format that currently exists out there?
I guess there's a stigma that comes with the whole genre, if you like, and to hand on heart, I'd never really watched paranormal stuff, paranormal documentary TV. I'd never really gone there, and I guess I just not engaged with it because of my preconceptions of what it is. But with everything we do, we strive for authenticity, and when we're doing something on our own, I kind of wonder what the point would be if we weren't being authentic, because that's what we don't often get to do in the world of TV anyway. So when we make our own stuff, it kind of has to be real, has to be authentic, because they're the stories we're telling, and that's our area of interest, really. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's because we're creating this content and we're putting it out there, you feel obligated to be true and honest in what you're doing. You're aware that people are going to be watching it, and so as I mentioned before, where we've done investigations and something's happened, and John and I have spent days going through footage only to debunk something that we spent an entire evening setting up. But you just think to yourself, well, we're not going to go with this because people are going to watch it, they're going to pick up on it, they're going to know it's not right, And actually, to be fair, the stuff that we have found is so real and so spooky. We don't need those other stories, And sometimes, as John, I'm sure, will probably tell you, we're sat in the edit and there's things that we didn't even realise happened at the time. And quite often we're sat in the edit and we're looking at things and we're looking at different shots and different camera angles, and then suddenly you do spot events that have happened that are real, and you just find yourself pinning in on those. They're mind-boggling. We don't necessarily understand why they're happening, and those are the stories we just naturally seem to follow.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly debunking things happen, and we're like, what? That doesn't make sense. What? Hang on a minute, and then we go, just a second, and then we delve into. We had some just last week, and then we got really deeply excited about an investigation that we did, and then something happened, and when the manager of the property came in and we spoke to them, they said, well, that shouldn't happen. There's absolutely no reason why that should happen. And then suddenly that piqued our interest, and we were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! This is our story." So we're going to hinge an entire episode around that. We got excited. We start looking at footage. We even start putting little pieces together. And then I said to her, "You need to please do us the honor, the duty of just looking into it and telling us if there's anything that it could possibly be, electrical or And then she came back about 3 days later and said, "Yeah, there's an electrical fault. Really sorry about that." And we were like, shit. So we're not, that is no longer our story. Or it could be, once we get into it, that it is our story, and that led us all down a path of belief that this is real and this is a story that we're about to tell. But then often we find curiouser things within that, and other little synchronicities or moments that happened at the same moment. I'm giving it away now. The lights went out. It's like there's 2 or 3 other things that suddenly it marries with an Estes method, and then suddenly we see something that we've captured that's like, that shouldn't be there. And then, have we got a story? So we don't know. We go into a location cold and blind with very little information. There's no point in going in with a script or an agenda, because it will go straight out of the window. And then, as Andy said, we get in the edit and all these little things come together and we go, hang on a minute. And then we take away all the dead moments and you bring it together as a story. You've got something that we could never make up. So it's truly fascinating. And yeah, we don't have answers and we don't have an agenda. That's I think that's quite key, isn't it? We're not going in with a point of view. Andy, if you don't mind me saying, when I brought this to Andy, he was complete skeptic. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah.
Look at him now.
Yeah.
You know, we're building gadgets and rigs, and we're looking into everything and trying every different angle within a story and bringing people to try bigger stories that we're interested in, and we're chasing stuff because it just keeps opening up, you know, questions the whole time and things that just defy rational explanation. And we're not calling paranormal all the time. We're saying, hands in the air, I don't know what that is. Anybody got anything? And 9 times out of 10, no one does, and it's chalked up as creepy or weird.
I think there's actually within this audience, shall we say, with our members who are here, I think a lot of people have found themselves in much the same position that you are. They have examined something, or they've been called to a case, or they've seen something anomalous, and it appears they take away the kind of the supernatural elements first, and actually look at it from the ground up and go, actually, what could it be, as opposed to suddenly it's a UFO or it's a ghost or a poltergeist. There's a kind of grounded perspective, and I think that's a kind of new feeling that's kind of within the whole of the paranormal community, that we kind of want to see, you know, with a bit of a rational mind, a skeptical, grounded perspective first. And I think that's actually so refreshing, perhaps in the last 5 to 6 years or so. Before that, it was kind of quite sensationalist. You know, the only reason you got into the media, you were telling a sensationalist story. If you look at any of the press and the newspapers, the Star, the Sun, the Mirror, whatever, if they cover a topic of the paranormal, you know, generally it's done with that kind of tongue-in-cheek, it's a kind of goofy story, and no one really believes it. But actually, you know, for those who are looking at it in a kind of serious way, there really is something happening, but it almost defies its explanation. But that actually requires you actually to put the effort in to find more about it. And I think it's wonderful you guys are also now on the same journey that many of us here are too.
Absolutely. That is literally what we're doing. I mean, you guys have obviously started this journey 15, 20, 30 years, whatever, ahead of us, and we are just naively bumbling into it and finding things as we go. But we're throwing so much technology and kit at it that it kind of can't escape our lens almost. And then we go, you know, and we're stumbling into areas that we know nothing about. Like just last week, rods came up. What's a rod? I don't know. Andy said, have a look at this. And I showed him an image of an insect that appeared to have 6 wings that we've captured on camera.
Oh, it's flying faster than the frame rate of the camera.
Allegedly. That's what they say. So in the paranormal space, people always try to debunk healthy and get to a certain level, and some things, there seems to be a sort of portcullis that comes out and says, that's all been debunked. That's, you know, orbs, that's dust, and, you know, rods, that's your frame rate. Well, I'm looking at the frame rate on this. I don't know yet, and I'm not trying to defend it in any shape or form, but we're shooting in progressive mode. We've got a single frame on a 6K camera, and there's 6 wings on this thing. And then I look at another one, and there's 6 wings on it on that shot as well from a different angle. So, you know, so I'm suddenly interested in rods that allegedly have been debunked years ago, and it's not an area of interest anymore for people. I'm like, I kind of find it quite fascinating. What was that? We knew there was a bug in the room, but it's huge, and it flew past our cameras at a very convenient moment, aka when the lights went out, just before the lights went out, and it went towards the control panel where the light switches are. I mean, so we can't have any preconceived ideas, really.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
No.
I think,
known paranormal anomalous thing was probably Mothman that went and turned the lights off, but we won't go there. That's another story altogether. But right, so the first question from the panel, Randy, do you have a question, please?
You guys, you go to different locations and you observe different groups of investigators. You have different people on in the different episodes. How do you pick the locations you go to? And how do you find the investigators? How do you choose these are the guys we want to work with?
That's a you thing, John, I guess.
Oh, John, you've gone quiet.
Karin Beasent is our main point of contact. So back to my earlier story about how I ended up here. She is my bookkeeper, accountancy firm, and knowing nothing about the paranormal, and then finding that she does this. She was literally my point of contact, and she introduces me to everybody, and she's a bit of a networker and a mover and shaker. So when we're looking for something, I tend to use Karin as the first point of contact, and then we talk to people from there. And then, I mean, as things have evolved, Andy and I are discussing more and more things and thinking, oh, wouldn't that be interesting? Or we find something along the way that's like, that's really cool. And then we'll ask who'd be good for that, or, you know, have you got a good location that this might work in? So there's lots of different factors, and then but it all also has to boil down to time, availability, practicalities. We're kind of self-financing this essentially, and you know, when Andy's free and I'm free and such investigator is free and we got access to that location, click, Thunderbirds go off with it. That's it. We just charge. But yeah, sometimes you get the location and then the investigators aren't available, and so on and so forth. And you know, we decide on the kind of investigator we're looking for that story. Dig a little bit about the history of that particular place, and then if it all clicks, we go. There's no hard and fast science to it. We just and it's that kind of spontaneity that I really like. That we just suddenly hit the ground running, and we don't really know that much about where we are. We don't really know the investigators that we're with, but that's kind of when the magic starts to happen. That's when things just pop up. So yeah,
we just to add to that, we've been very lucky with the locations as well, haven't we? So we've been given a phenomenal access, you know, places like Warwick Castle and castles in Clevedon, and you know, the Frankenstein Museum. You know, these locations have just been incredible, allowing us to stay around at 3 in the morning and do these investigations. You know, and I think probably coming from our background in TV, we've been very respectful for all the locations we go to. And I think they've appreciated that, and hopefully we get invited back. You know, and the same with the investigators. But yeah, some of the locations we've had access to has just been amazing. You know,
and it's not like we're not BBC, we're not Channel 4. We don't have a budget and say, hey, we'll pay you $3,000. Can we come and investigate for the night? It's like, we haven't got a bean, you know, but these are the stories. We're fascinated by your place. Can we get access? And then when they say yes, it's like, well, of course we're going to be respectful. And of course we're going to look after the place. And in TV, that doesn't even always happen. It's like TV crews can run roughshod over a location on any show and leave a bad reputation behind. So when the next people come along, no, sorry, you're not welcome. And they're the ones that even pay. So it's really important to us that we are respectful on every level, and not only that, but to the investigators and to the story that we're trying to tell. So it's, yeah, comes hand in hand, really.
Wonderful, thank you. Randy, do you have another question?
Nope. A little bit later.
Yeah, okay. We're going to move on to Mike then, please.
Hello. Well, I like the way you refer to making a story, and I know you don't mean that as in a fictional sense, because I think it's the story makers and the chroniclers and the recorders that I rely on in my professional role exclusively. You know, very much working with source material in the press or in autobiographies or the like, and it's really quite encouraging to people use that phrase in a neutral term. But I was wondering what components make for a good story when it comes to paranormal documentaries, in your opinions?
Well, obviously, you've got the location to begin with. We're now moving more towards the theme of investigation, but in our initial early investigations, it would be the locations such as the world's most haunted prison. And then we have an amazing investigator in Dr. Kate Sherrill. And we think, okay, these are really good ingredients, but the fear that was running through my head prior to that shoot, which was probably our first or second shoot, I can't probably remember, was we need an insurance policy because we can't go to the world's most haunted prison and have nothing, because that would be catastrophic. So we bring in a sniffer dog, thinking that, well, we can rely on a dog not to make things up. And lo and behold, the dog, being our canary in the coal mine, completely delivered. So again, we have no idea before we go into that prison what our story is going to be. We know where we're going. So you have to surround yourself with the right ingredients that you've got to fall back. So that there's some history, some compelling stories. There's lots of accounts from people. When we went to the Mary Shelley's House of Frankenstein, there's 4 or 5 people who will look you in the eye and tell you what's happened to them. And for me to go into a location, the most important thing is if somebody tells me they wholeheartedly believe in the haunting or the experience or whatever it was that happened to them, that's worthy of a story. That's my jumping off point. Okay, you believe it, therefore can I come and speak to you about it? And then we build out from there. And then we know we've got investigators with specific skills. We've got a location with all that history, and we know we've got a journey from A to B, which might be me coming in at 7 o'clock and me being kicked out at 3 a.m. And that's literally it. But that's how we make a TV program. But that's not the story. That's still not that. That's the production, and then the story starts in the edit, because the story is the thing that comes through on the Estes method, or the little EVP that we captured that actually resonates with the theme of all the questions that people were asking or wanted answers to. And then you'll find 2 or 3 things that become the tent poles for your story, and then I'll build the story in the edit around that. And it is storytelling. I mean, I'm not denying that. And in storytelling, you need a degree of artistic license. But if you've got 5, 6, 7 points of interest of things that happen throughout the course of that night, perhaps something is trying to tell us a story. And that's what we're looking for every time. And if that pays out, brilliant. If that doesn't pay out, like the one we've just done where it actually draws a blank and it was like, it's all it's fallen like a house of cards, we won't shy away from that. We'll still say that becomes the story. And is it our belief? Is it us trying to push this onto the story? And then it's back on us again as the documentarians. It's all interesting, but so long as I've got the bases covered, that I know that nothing paranormal is going to happen. If nothing happens all night and we're just sitting there in a stone dead building, I know I've still got a story to tell. Then worth doing. Worth doing. But luckily that hasn't really happened to us yet, because every time something has popped up, and not something that could be scripted, despite some people suggesting we're faking from time to time, which we're clearly not, because I don't have the imagination, quite frankly, to write some of those things.
Yeah. Andy, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Karin and John sort of source these locations, and I can normally tell if it's going to be good by how excited John is on the phone when he's explaining it to me. So when he starts, mentioning we've got this location, you've got this person, and you think, oh, okay, I can see something's going to happen here. And then, as John says, quite often we'll do an investigation and we'll leave tired 3 a.m, not really knowing what happened. And then it tends to be the next day or a day later when we're looking through the rushes, and I'll get that WhatsApp message from John. He's like, have you seen this? And that's something, oh, here we go, and dive into it and you think, all right, okay, that is weird. And it's normally John's found something in the edit, and suddenly, we're unpicking a thread of something, and that's when I know that, okay, I can see where this one's going, I can see what the story is. And it
makes sound quite put upon, Andy.
yeah. But, and
where we go now.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, what's this? Yeah. Well, sometimes I have to take it. I have to take it with a pinch of salt because sometimes these things, you know, they do. You know, so John sent me a message with a clip or something, and then I think, right, we're going to spend the day now digging into this, and this can go either way. We're either going to debunk it, and it's going to be a complete waste of time, or we're not, and it's going to be really cool. You know, so you sort of, you know, you are thinking, oh, what's going to, you know, really? So yeah, the event that John's talking about, where we spoke to the electrician, that was really looking like we've actually captured a real phenomenon. Something's really strange had happened. And then, yeah, obviously the electrician debunked it for us, you know. But there was a couple of days there where, you know, we thought we were going to be on BBC News at one point. You know, this was going to be but
that happens a lot, though, doesn't it? I mean, there's been probably, I would say, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times when we've gone, oh my God, and it couldn't be anything else. And then, as Andy said, a day or half day goes by, and we're like, and then something will click, or we start to engage with everybody on the WhatsApp group about it, and everyone's chiming in with an opinion, and then, oh, that was, yeah, okay.
But, you know, and John mentioned it earlier, I think now this whole world of sort of paranormal investigation that we've entered is that technology is moving on. And, you know, so now when we go into an environment, so the shoot we did last weekend, was it? Weekend 4, was all a blur. I'm going through the rushes. I've got 13 audio channels, 13 synced audio channels from all the different cameras. We've got 2 360 cameras, we've got GoPros, we've got Zoom recorders, we've got our Sony cameras that we're filming with, multiple mics, we've got DJI mics on people, you know, so suddenly something's happened and you've got 13 channels of audio to wade through, and you've got to get them all synced so everything's frame perfect and you can drop from one to the other. I mean, we've had it where we've had voices and they've been on everyone's radio mics, and you're going through all the channels trying to isolate where's that voice come from. And I think, you know, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have access to it, you know. So I think it's quite a good moment in the whole kind of world of investigation, because the tech is getting better and better and more readily available, you know.
Yeah.
We're chucking so much tech at it every single time that it would be, if something is going on, it would be really hard push to slip through our recording mechanisms, you know, because we've had trial and error each time, and then the first couple of times, every time you put the camera down, something happens. What was that? Oh my God, you know. And it's like, oh, can you just tell us what happened? And we've missed the moment, and so we bring in 360 cameras, and then we find some things happen off mics. We bring in little DJI clip mics, and then we just keep building and building the tech to make sure that we've covered our asses, that if something goes down, it ain't getting past us. And that's what we're doing. But perhaps, I don't know, perhaps this accounts for our success rate in that it is still 100% each investigation we go and we get a story. Maybe people haven't gone to those lengths before. Maybe not enough tech has been thrown at it. People, 2 camcorders with onboard mics perhaps is not enough to capture something that's going on. Perhaps something is trying to communicate all the time when you open yourself to it. We just don't know. But with our success rate, I'm starting to wonder, you know, Karin used to say, it's you, John. And I'm like, I really don't think it is. I don't think it's me. Yes, there's our investigators are wonderful and they've got an open mind and their own abilities and they bring things to it. But I also think an element of this tech, and Andy is pioneering a lot of this stuff right now, and pushing it and really pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. It's like, I think maybe that's part of the success rate for it. And maybe just people aren't putting enough effort into that. And the rub for us, as I say, we're not being paid to do this. So we do one investigation and it might be 3 months of editing because it's 13 audio tracks, 6 video channels, you know, and it just takes it takes forever in your downtime to try and put all that together. But if you don't go through every little frame, you're not going to find the story. and who's got the time to do that is my question to you guys who do paranormal investigations way more regularly than we do. If you shoot 6 hours of footage on 3 cameras, can you honestly say you go through every single frame and sync it all up and find and explore every possible avenue? Because that's what we're having to do.
Well, welcome to the world of the paranormal, guys. You've actually arrived. That's the bugbear. I mean, we've got cameras running in our house 24/7 because we live in a haunted house, and we're obviously missing so much stuff. Martin, my husband, mentioned something that had happened, and I went back through the footage to try to find it and went to the wrong time slot and picked that recording up and had a look. And it was me just hanging the washing over the area to dry it off. And a man's voice was there. And if I didn't look for what he said he had experienced, I would never have found that really clear audible, which very clearly said a man saying, "She's tired." Well, I was. Thanks for noticing. But, nobody else is going to do my washing for me. But you're right. You do have all of these hours worth of audio to go through. And I take my hat off for you and your dedication for producing this.
Thank you.
Just go ask Paul to unmute so he can ask his question to you.
Yeah, thanks. I've never really watched paranormal TV shows because things like Most Haunted put me off. So it's great that you are sticking with the sort of the documentary theme and not trying to produce phenomena. But there must be a real pressure if you are sort of in a room or house for 7 or 8 hours and nothing happens. So I'm intrigued as to whether or not there's the people you're selling your show to are pushing you to produce stuff, if you like, let's put it that way, or how they respond to that. And my second point sort of relates really to what I do watch, which is a lot of podcasts. And I think podcasts have democratized the media. So everybody in there can have a go now. And I think there's a lot of really interesting podcasts out there. Ross Coulthard is one of the guys I'm thinking about. He's a UFO guy. And I'm finding these really interesting stuff. And I wonder how you're going to compete with podcasts and whether you think that's a threat or you think it's a good idea and how it's going to shape your documentaries in the future.
Well, first things first, thank you for that. But the first point is we are not funded. We have no producers above us. We have no executives. We have no broadcasters to report to. We are making this between us and we're putting it out on YouTube for free for everybody. So the pressure is purely our own, like our desire to make a good, compelling show that is genuine. And as I said, it's like if nothing happens, nothing happens. We're not going to shy away from that. We've been fortunate so far, but no doubt it's coming. There'll be an episode. But as I say, so long as we've set ourselves up with all the right ingredients, we can still get a very interesting story. In fact, we're talking about doing one where, because we are questioning ourselves so much, we're thinking about doing an episode which is non-haunted. It's just us with all the tech calling out in a non-haunted building, and we're going to give it the same relevance and same treatment that we give to somewhere like the world's most haunted prison. And we're going to see if anything comes through on an EVP, on a ghost app, on an Estes method, anything like that. And just see, because if things start to happen in my front room, we'll know that maybe we're the ones creating it. So there's that. But then in terms of podcasts, what we've created for ourselves is complete freedom. And that's why we keep doing it. That's why we slave over hours and hours of stuff. We're having fun. Doesn't always feel like that. I'm sure Andy will vouch for that. But we're having fun doing it, so we're not under any pressure or any obligation. Therefore, we're under no threat from anybody else. We've just literally crossed the 4,000 watch hours on YouTube, which means we qualify for the partner program. So perhaps we'll start to get 10 quid a month comes through. Woohoo! That's it. So no, I'm not threatened by podcasts.
So I thought this was your main source of income. That's why I was wondering. No, not at
all. We have zero income.
I know how that feels. Yeah.
Zero income from this show. Hopefully that'll change, but it's not going to put us off.
And just to pick up on what you were saying about staging things as well. The thing I noticed coming new to this is that the individuals we're working with, the investigators, are from such professional backgrounds. We have got university professors, we've got scientists, and that's the thing that's amazed me, is that the kind of my preconception of what a paranormal investigator would be was completely changed when we started doing this program. And you realize that when you're working with them, that it is not an environment to be making things up. That is not going to go down well. They're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to stand for it, so yeah, it became really obvious to me straight away on the first shoot that, when we're not going to be making things up here, because these are professional people that are dedicating their time for free. And they're not going to be happy if we're messing around with things. So it's just not that vibe. That's not the way we've approached it at all.
Because Andy took just to jump in on that. Andy took a picture of me on the very first.
You're gonna squeal on me now, aren't you?
Yeah, but it does prove the point. This is Andy coming in as a complete hard. Oh God, what's he got me doing now? Type thing. We're doing an investigation, are we? But he'd set me up. So with his colleague at home, so like whatever it was, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he took a picture of me filming, sent it to his colleague. His colleague did a Photoshop number on it and put this Victorian ghostly figure over my shoulder. And then as we wrapped up and we're packing up the kit and loading the van, he said, "Oh my God, look at this." And I looked at it and I was pretty much creeped out already at this point. And then he showed me this picture and I fell for it, hook, line and sinker. And he must have just been sniggering to himself. And, it wasn't, I got up the next morning, I was looking, I was going, why is there no metadata on this? If you took that at 3:38, whatever it was, I was like, oh, and then, but I think Andy got a bit of a wrist slap from that. And then that was, all right, no more monkey business. Let's get down to it. But it was on me, it wasn't on the viewer or the investigators or anybody. It was on me. So I can take it.
I got so much grief for that the next day. Yeah. There you go.
I wasn't taking it seriously. That was it.
Well, if it wasn't you, I know that your other producer, Karin Beasent, would have been the person who would have done the jump scare at some point. That's what she normally does when we're out together.
I've heard that.
Don't let her deny that. She's very naughty, that one.
She's told me she's done that a few times, but thankfully she's not done it to us yet.
No, she's on her best behaviour. Look at her shaking her head. But right, let's head back over to Christian, my lovely, if you'd like to ask your next question. Did you want to go to any questions from any of the members that's here at the moment?
Yes, there is a few that have popped up, I believe. Let me just roll back up. So Malcolm Dyer says, how do you develop programming and how so many programs are duplications of each other going down the same spooky highway? But does it reveal anything new? Perhaps it's time for a realization and to get away from the Baggins pick. Now, of course, he's referring to the Zach Baggins, of course, from Ghost Adventures in the US, that, again, is very much mirrored on the Most Haunted format. When you go in a spooky house with night vision cameras, then it's edited up to, to tell the story or the narrative, whatever that is could be. So I think that you kind of touched on all the points in there about, to be a different show that obviously is aiming for a kind of different authenticity. But I mean, actually, you guys have spoke about how many shows are essentially mirror copies of each other, perhaps because they're so easy to film, so cheap to film in that sense. I mean, and you guys are coming at it with this new perspective. But I mean, have you had an opportunity to see some of the other ghost shows, and which ones kind of stood out for you as kind of the ones that you kind of made a quick note about? This is what we should do and what we shouldn't do. Anything like that?
Well, just to pick up on that, it's like this isn't just bespoke to the paranormal. This is TV in general. There's a kit of parts, no matter what the genre is that you're working within. If you're doing a property show, it's done a certain way. If you're doing Escape to the Country, it's highly, highly formatted. And then if that's become successful, which clearly it was, it gets aped and mirrored and mirrored and mirrored and mirrored. So surely it's the same with the paranormal. And if the first thing that came through, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, was Help My House is Haunted in the UK. or most haunted, then, the success of that will trigger copycats, Me Too's, and people will try and, find that formula because that is the formula for success. But having done that in all these different genres of TV, it's just a big yawn, and it's not something we would ever try to do. If Andy and I were doing a property format, which we might well be doing, and we wouldn't look at all the other formats and try and be one of them. We would say, what do we find interesting? What's our take on it? And that's when you go somewhere new. So it's not that we've looked at Paranormal and given it a deep dive critique. We've just gone, what we find it interesting, or who's what's that person's story, or what So yeah, we're not trying to reinvent a wheel. We're just trying to do something that we find engaging.
I get you from that. So I guess my question would be, what's the kind of wildest unplanned moment you've seen for your productions so far?
Andy, do you want that?
Okay. Well, the craziest moment. So we can only talk about the ones that are out at the moment, right? Not the ones we just filmed.
All the ones that are coming up. Yeah,
coming up. I think Shackleton Mallet Prison. I think the dog was crazy because we were in that prison. I think there was 5 or 6 of us in. We had been given access as we came in. They locked the prison doors behind us. So we were in a locked down environment. There was only the small group of us, and we were in that room. I knew exactly where everyone was, and one of those big cell doors slammed, and the dog went crazy, and that was weird. And actually, on the back of that, that's what I was saying to John. I wasn't sure if in what we'd filmed, we'd conveyed well enough exactly where all the people were. One of the things we were talking about is, should we have trackers on? Should we all have body cameras on so that in our edit we can show that there are 6 people, this is where they are, there's nobody upstairs, so that's why we started to get the 360 camera involved, wasn't it? Because we knew actually we've got to be filming everywhere all the time, because we need to be able to show who's in the room, where people are. And that was really weird. And then I had my personal experience trying to film the crazy dog, where I heard voices, so much so that I was convinced it was going to be on the rushes, and then never found it. But I would have bet my life that I had heard women speaking to me in that environment. So that was a kind of really crazy one. But I think, I guess really the revisited for the Bath costume hire, that location was just insane. So many things just happened one after another there. I mean, that maybe that, I don't know.
Now you mention it, that is the one. I mean, for me, I got involved in that. I didn't mean to be or set out to be. We're both used to being behind the camera, not in front of the camera. And Kate Ray brought me into that. I mean, it was because normally there's 2 people on camera, but this time it was just her, and things were kind of responding to me. So I was brought in, but many of you will have seen the episode. If not, I encourage you to do so, because it is really fascinating. So there was remote viewing involved. There's Kate remote viewed the building and met a small child with a very interesting story surrounding these 2 Victorian women. It was a very lonely child, and she wasn't sure if it was human or not. And through the questions, everything was coming out through the Alice box and the SB7. But we just chucked loads of stuff at it that night. But everything seemed to be communicating and backing up a story. But the most chilling bit for me happened in the edit again, because, as Andy was saying, we filmed that night. We literally filmed until the sun came up. We were in there from, 7 o'clock at night or something, right through. So we were utterly exhausted. And as I said, we chucked everything at it, tried every different thing. But we knew we were looking for the story of this possibly non-human child in there. And the Alice box at one point said, count. And then Kate was like, count? What do you mean count? And Andy chimed in and says, maybe count on your fingers, because we're trying to find out the age of this child. So counts through, gets to 5, and then I didn't fully twig until the edit the significance of this, but basically this kid was 5 years old, called Rich, and it was a goblin kid. Make of that whatever you will. But it was in answer to every single question, the whole playfulness of what was happening that night. Something was engaging with me and taking the piss, basically, having fun in a really playful way. But yeah, that whole story just played out, and it was like, couldn't be any more unscripted, couldn't be any more phenomena, it couldn't be any more wonderful. And we've been to that location more times than one, maybe 3 or 4 now, and it makes me want to go back, because it literally spelt it out who we're talking to, and all the stories just married together, and it just happened so organically, and it was so much fun. Ghost hunting is not necessarily creepy. That night was hilarious and mad, really. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. I've got nothing else to say on the subject. That's a good one. That's my favourite one.
Wonderful, thank you. I can see the time's 8 o'clock. Do you have time for another question? A couple of questions. Yeah. Randy, would you like to ask another question?
Sure. That episode in the prison with the dog, that really impressed me, because not just a dog barking at a sound, because you'd expect a dog might do that, but the dog went into absolute fear mode and was refusing to continue the patrol. It's a security patrol dog. So that really impressed me. John, you had mentioned that you had some experiences of something possibly paranormal. So you went into this basically open to the idea, apparently. And I wish we had time to hear what those experiences were, but I'm not sure if we do. Now, Andy, you went in as the skeptic. You had never bothered with any of this stuff. Now that you've been doing these programs and you've heard voices and stuff, what is your take on the validity of other people's claims and what you guys have been experiencing? Do you think there's something to it now?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I know people are hearing things. I know there are things that they're seeing, because we can back that up with the footage. I'm looking at the footage. I can see it there for myself. I'm trying to understand what that is. And one of the great things about all the different investigators that we've worked with is they're all coming from such different backgrounds, So one of my personal, my sort of favorite topics is I'm really into quantum physics and particle physics, So those kind of, superposition of particles and those kind of things, that's what really interests me. So I'm trying to sort of debunk these things, thinking, okay, well, what could that be? Or what technology, or how could those sound waves happen, But people are definitely experiencing things. There are definitely events happening. And the interesting thing, as I say, has been all the different people we've met and their different views. Some people, we were filming at a fairy ball the other weekend in Glastonbury. Absolutely fascinating, actually learning a lot about people's beliefs and the mythology that goes with a lot of these things. So I'm still very open-minded. I can see there are things that have happened. I'm still trying to understand that, and I'm trying to stay on the fence.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, have you got another question?
I've got a few, really, but I'll restrict myself to one. I think the style of what I've seen of your documentaries, I've got something very vivid and alive to it. I was wondering whether you were influenced at all by the kind of folk horror genre, or what your influences were generally, because they were quite effective, whatever they were.
I think the folk thing, there is a folk slant to it, and that's kind of the hooded druid character, which was inspired, and it was quite early on, I think. But it's just nice that we're exposed to so many things now, and I wanted something iconic but inoffensive, and people said, oh, it's very Traitors, but Traitors hadn't happened when we first created that thing. But really, again, it's like, and I hate to say Andy's got a VFX background, right? But that doesn't mean anything's being fake. There's no apparitions and all that stuff going on. I mean, they could be if we went down that road, but we don't. But I filmed a chap who was 6'6", I think, standing in a druid costume on a step ladder in the middle of the night next to a field, next to a road. And a car came past, illuminated the headlights, and I gave the footage to Andy, and he quickly removed the step ladder underneath. So we've got this levitating druid, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. That's amazing. And then that just became the runner. It was like, okay, that's our brand, if you like. That's the branding of it. And yeah, people say Traitors and all the rest of it. But I knew that was a nod to all things folklore and everything else without being direct or on the nose. And it just seemed like a nice path to be on. But yeah, other than that, for me, I don't know about Andy. I mean, Andy does all the sort of graphic key interstitial moments that go in between, and I concentrate on the story. So obviously we'd love to be able to put a visual stamp on things, but we haven't really done that yet in terms of, oh, this is a nod to a certain style of movie making or whatever. We're trying to be authentic to the material, to the story, so we wouldn't, shoot it in a Vim Vendors style or whatever. Do you know what I mean? We wouldn't try and make it what it's not. But sometimes a little something will happen and we go, and that could look like this, or we could style it a little bit, and then that's where it gets exciting for our sort of creative juices. There's loads of stuff I want to do and loads of visual stuff I want to play with, but it all costs a bit of money. So maybe series 3 or 4 or something down the line. But,
well, it's looking great as it is, I'm going to say.
Most of that is down to on the post-production, to be fair. He puts in a lot of time and effort and a graphic look to things that...
It's kind of what people gravitate towards as well, isn't it? It's like the tarot cards. We started doing those tarot cards and working out designs based on the investigators that were on each of the episodes and the locations, and they're actually turning into a really nice little set of cards, and we're now thinking, well, maybe we should do a whole set of tarot cards, so, and people have been asking for them, haven't they? So it's kind of got its own life to a certain extent.
Yeah. And that'll be another thing. So that's what's so cool. It's like, I think me and Andy work really well together because we've got complementary skills. I've got ideas, but I haven't got a Scooby-Doo how to realise them. And I can go, oh yeah, tarot cards. And Andy'll be like, oh, what? And then he goes away and has a little, you mean like this? And I'm like, oh my God, that's more than was in my head. And then off we go. And it just, things become bigger and more exciting. But it's just, there's a sort of ping pong that goes on between us. And I don't know if it's partly the sort of me being slightly more open-minded and you being more from the skeptical perspective. I don't know, but there's this sort of like little thing going on that I think is giving us really interesting results. I mean, and again, that's what excites me to keep going with it, because visually, as well as the story-wise and obviously the phenomena that we're exploring as filmmakers, I'd love to be able to just raise the bar and really step it up. I love the sort of more old school practical filmmaking shot on 35mm film and all that stuff, it's like that's my bag, but I got to be realistic, and we're all digital and we just running around with cameras on our shoulders nowadays.
Well, those sorry,
the Supernatural UK, the movie coming to a screen near you.
Yes. That's not even a joke. We are going to we're thinking about doing something along those lines, because we'd love to see it on a big screen. It would work really well on a big screen, and I think watching it with an audience would be fascinating. So I don't quite know the format it's going to take, but in the fullness of time, we're definitely going to be looking at some film festival type material and feature length offerings. And it might even be that we do it for 3 or 4 years and then all the best bits come together to make a movie. And it might be that we use a different editor, not us, who looks at it objectively from a different perspective and tells the story of how it all came together. We don't know yet, but it's an interesting area, and nothing's off the table, is it? We can just keep exploring and keep playing, and one day something might pay the bills. If we're
lucky. We'll definitely stick with those tarot cards, because it worked for Tales of the Unexpected very well, didn't it? So.
That's true, yeah.
I was sat somewhere and it was on a screen somewhere, and I was like, oh my God, the tarot cards. And, obviously nothing's entirely original, but it must have been a subconscious thing somewhere.
Oh, you've lost your sound again, John.
There you go. He's better like that. That's good.
Yeah, I think he's doing that old trick, isn't he, where he pretends his microphone's gone just to move on. Right, let's have Paul. Have you got another question for our chaps?
Just very, very simple one, really. I think it was John that mentioned remote viewing. A bit of remote viewing was done. I thought maybe you could talk a bit more about what actually happened and what you found.
Well, yeah, that was Kate Ray. I mean, it's a subject that I've been fascinated by forever, and again, like a sci-fi plot, because it's so fantastical and mind-blowing and ridiculous to me that it's been put in the realms of science fiction. But then when you hear all the things, the real-life practical applications of it, I've thought, really? Could this be a thing? And then when I made the decision to go down the documentary route, I'm like, well, surely people do this, and I will find them at some point. And I'm just really excited that we have. And tomorrow, funnily enough, we're doing an investigation with 2 remote viewers doing completely blind targets, working on blind targets, and we'll see where we go. But yeah, no, as I say, so far, the one we did with Kate was remote viewing the Bath theatrical costume hire, and she picks up on entities and energies, I guess, and she had an entire story that she came out with, which was incredible, and it married on at least 4 or 5 different points. So the fact that she'd drawn what she saw, knowing nothing about the place, and then I was quite blown away by looking at the drawings, and I contacted the owner separately and said to her, "Do you have any idea of what the Victorian character looks like that you refer to?" And she sent me an image and said, "We think a lot like this," and sent me this image. And it looked like a drawing of that, basically. And that's at the end of the film. So to me, that just hit home. But as I say, then everything that happened throughout that particular investigation, it was like the remote viewing was the trigger, was the gateway for this phenomenal thing that just happened throughout the night. Relentless. So I'm really, really keen to try it again, and this time we're being as scientific as we possibly can be. There's 2 investigators. They know nothing about the targets that we've set for them, and we will see. And again, it's like what's the fallback for the story? Well, it doesn't. We're not putting them to the test. We're putting the concept to the test and seeing where it takes us and takes it. And then there will be a point, if they're not successful, or if they're on the wrong path or whatever, we will realign them with the right path. We will explain all, and then we will go in a more focused version towards those targets and see where it lands, really.
If you're interested, there's a really interesting book by David Marks called The Psychology of the Psychic, which looks into remote viewing from the skeptical angle.
Okay.
And he sort of evaluates the subjective validation of picking drawings out and matching them, looking for matches. So it's worth, it's thin books, quite a good read though.
Let me grab that. David Marks?
Yeah. David Marks, 2002, Psychology of the Psychic.
Fantastic, thank you.
Got the ISBN number? I memorised it.
Psychology of the what?
Of the Psychic, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
You need to read that before tomorrow, John, before we do our remote viewing.
Right, brilliant.
Thank you very much, Paul. So next question, I'm gonna have a go now. So guys, Andy and John, your series that you've developed and you've put your first series out there, it's incredible. It's got teeth. It's going to go a long way, I feel. In future episodes, what's the one thing that you hope to experience?
Andy?
I think, a full poltergeist experience. I think we filmed at the castle in Clevedon, I can't remember what it's called, Walton Castle. And as we were filming, there's this great big picture of like this evil-looking bird that was behind them, and I just so wanted that picture for all of what I got to, I was thinking, I just want now something. So we've had all these events, but I guess that's what everyone's looking for, isn't it? That, that just that one significant thing that just can't be disputed, possibly. Is that selfish? Is that crazy? I don't know.
It's all been quite sublime so far, and intriguing and eerie and slightly creepy, and there's stories that come together, as we say in the edit, but we've not had anything categorical, visual. We've not seen anything, have we? Really, not yet. But even that's not even necessarily what I'm looking for. I don't think. Obviously, to be convinced without a shadow of a doubt, or have some categorical evidence, would be phenomenal. But as Andy said, everyone's chasing that and everyone's looking for that. So I don't need that. Just something that I know. If I know that something is 100% hit, and we've set up this shoot, and we know that beyond a shadow of a doubt that happened, and that is truly a phenomena, then I'm good. I'm happy, and I think we've been pretty close. But I'm hoping this weekend come in, it's gonna be full on. We've got 4 investigations back to back. It's a hell of a weekend coming up. It's Halloween. The veil is thin, as they say. See what happens.
Wonderful, thank you. Let's move over to Christian. Christian, if you've got a question yourself, or you can run through a couple from the members.
No, so let me just hop back to the main group here. So it's really good to have a different format actually to how we would normally do this. So my question ultimately is, you've called it the Supernatural UK, and I guess it's because you're in the UK. Would there be perhaps an option to make that international? Is that something what you guys have spoke about at some point, or you've thought about going to the Supernatural International and perhaps grabbing an international location like, I guess, Ireland or the continent or the US, Australia, China?
Yeah. I mean, there's enough stories in the UK to keep us going forever.
For sure.
Absolutely. Would we like to go bigger and, go to the world's most whatever? Yeah, of course. Yeah, we would. But, we don't know what we want. I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. I'm guessing, we want it to be successful and self-sufficient so we can keep doing it. But as the earlier comment there from Mike, he was like, well, do we want to have someone telling us what to do? Do we want to have an obligation to a broadcaster, a commissioner, to a Netflix? Or not so much. So we like it to take us more naturally wherever it takes us, sort of thing. But yeah, if it becomes successful and we can afford to do things, and then someone tells us there's this amazing story in wherever, New Zealand or RMS Queen Mary, we can go. We would go. Of course we would. But we
did talk about the UK, didn't we? I think one of the things as well is that, we are obviously from the UK, and one of the things we discussed was that even if we went abroad, it is British investigators, it's a British team, it's us, we are the Supernatural UK, wherever we go, and that was the thing, just being down in Glastonbury last weekend, I realised there's just this wealth of expertise and history and knowledge here. And that's our heritage, really. That's where we're coming from. So the UK worked.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I do think there's this I think the very UK centric curiosity. We are kind of embracing the world, and we kind of want to know about everywhere. And I guess that is, like you said there, if you take the UK to everywhere, you will still be your current brand. You are still this brand of curiosity. That's really good. That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to go and look at Trolls. I'd like to be open to everything. But yeah, we take our brand with us, and that's
excellent.
That's cool.
Caroline, shall I bat it back to you, my love? She's muted there.
It's not like me to be muted, is it, guys? So,
no, it's certainly not.
No. John and Andy, do you have time for any more questions, or are you happy with how things are? Do you want to go on for another question each?
Yeah, I can do another one. Yeah.
Randy, should we just see if you've got any more in your box of tricks, first of all?
Actually, all of the questions I had written down to ask have already been asked or answered in discussion. So you have I believe 10 episodes in the can now. I watched like 3 of them. The dog one really impressed me. If you mentioned going on once you're currently filming, and so how many seasons of this do you expect there to be? What's your end goal, for the production run for this?
Yeah, I mean, we set out to make 10 episodes for series 1, and we filmed 10 episodes, but we ran out of time because I had to go off on another series. We got really busy doing things, so we series 1 is actually 8 episodes, despite the trailer saying 10. So those 2 will carry on to the start of the next episode. That's Warwick Castle, so there'll be 2 episodes from Warwick Castle. So I think sticking with an 8 as a format is quite good. We've got another 3 in the can, complete episodes on top of Warwick. So probably got 5 in the can and another one on its way. And then this weekend we're hoping to get another. I mean, yeah, we're swimming in episodes, and
we're going to be filming all weekend, aren't we? We've got events lined up all this weekend. But Warwick Castle was the one that we hit a barrier on because we went there for 48 hours, and we were lucky enough to get 2 complete nights in the castle to wander around and explore. So when we got that footage back, we obviously had acres of it. I mean, there was so much work to go through and edit it, and that's why it kind of bumped into the second series, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we want to do justice to that. We've got some really interesting events that have happened, so we really want to do justice to that.
Yeah, getting access to Warwick Castle is like pretty phenomenal. So we have to make sure we've done what we talked about earlier, pouring through every single bit. And at the moment, the hours that have gone into Warwick Castle have set up a really intriguing, slightly complicated story that points towards a certain historical character within the castle. But we need to see it through and make sure that it delivers on all that. But right now, it's really, really interesting, really fascinating, and again, really super creepy. But that's only on day 1 of the 2 days that we were there. So the shape of all of it, again, we don't know, and I don't even know what time of year we filmed. Was it March? We did. Karen's there. I see Karin now. Karin, you were there. You're one of our lovely investigators from that. Was that back in March? And you had some experiences yourself there and proved a certain degree of psychic ability as well, I would say.
It was February we filmed, and I had a stinking cold. I felt so ill, but that was an amazing to walk around this castle and be treated so well was amazing. But wait till you see it. It's so exciting. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. No, they're definitely going to be a really interesting one. But so we will finish filming, just to get back to your original question there, Andy, we'll finish filming by the end of this year, and we will definitely have enough for 8 further episodes. And then it's a case of how much time we can commit to it without having to go off on full-time jobs elsewhere to get it done. Or if we can raise some money, we will hire in more editors and get it done much quicker, because we'd love to be able to say, just like any other show, series 2 comes out on, April the 5th, would be amazing, but we can't, because we're still tied down in something we shot February last year, and we've shot 6 more since. But yeah, we'd love to keep going, and it looks like series of 8 episodes at a time is the way to go for us. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll go back to Mike for his last question to you.
There's so many great questions with the audience as well, but I've got to ask a bit of a deep one here. You mentioned a feeling like as if you were being toyed with, or there was like a bit of trickster phenomena going on. And I was wondering, from what you've experienced and what you've got a sense of, do you have an idea if these could be classically dead people, or something more kind of, I wouldn't say demonic, but something that's got its own kind of autonomy, not necessarily a dead person? If you'd be prepared to have a stab at that or not, it's up to you.
I still don't know, but I can't deny something. Direct engagement, something talking to me and prodding me, essentially. And then the confession that it's a 5-year-old kid called Rich. And all accounts from the place previously unknown to our investigator were all about a young child as well. So something was engaging with us, and I felt it personally. What is it? I know nothing about quantum physics. I know nothing about the paranormal. I've got no clue, but something. That's all I've got. I'm sorry, I can't philosophize any more about it. And that's enough to keep me going. But
just to add to that, I think that these things feel different in the different locations. So we called that episode Playtime because it really felt like we were being played with. There was so much going on. It was really crazy. John had a communication with what seems to be a child, or Kate had communication with the child, but it really seemed to be reacting to John. The prison felt a lot more sinister and really quite scary. The Frankenstein one was odd as well. The Frankenstein Museum, that felt like a different character. So the investigators have been different, but also the sort of events we've had and the kind of feeling we get from it has been quite different in the various different locations. It's been quite interesting.
Every time it's different. Every experience is completely different. But not many that you would categorize as scary, really. Maybe one for me, that's about it. But I don't know about you, but we've not had any cause to go, oh, I'm so scared. Blair Witch Project running around in a green UV light, it's just not happened. It's not been like that at all in our experience.
It's almost like Stone. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say the theatre, we filmed in a theatre in Wales, and just the most craziest storm hit that we weren't expecting. And we kept having 4 come out across the Estes machine. Or was it was Ghost Lab, was it, John?
It was both. So that was what was really interesting about that night. The Ghost app, everybody goes, oh yeah, the Ghost app. But when the Ghost app starts literally telling you what's going on in the room and communicating and talking about Andy as he's walking around and things like that, you do start to pay attention, and it chimes in with the history of what's allegedly happened in that place. But what was really interesting that night is the Ghost app and the Estes method both brought up the same words consistently. And one was accident, which is why it was called accident. Allegedly somebody died in there. Where they pushed, did they fall? Nobody really knows. And the other one was Thor, but it did come through on both. So it came through in the Estes, and it was Craig Williams who was, he was under, and Thor came through, but also we heard it clear as day multiple times coming through on the Ghost app. Coincidence? Who knows? Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's just move over to Paul to ask his last question now as well.
Yeah, just a very, I mean, I have to admit, I've not actually seen the show yet. I'm going to have to go and check it out. But it seems to be, it's predominantly sort of on-site, poltergeist, ghost hunting type thing. Have you thought about sort of branching out and looking at things like mediumship or after-death communications or reincarnation? Any other topics in the paranormal apart from the ghost hunting and the poltergeist and stuff?
Love it. All of it. Yes, please. Absolutely would love to. So as I say, we're doing some remote viewing stuff. We're doing some witchcraft stuff coming up, which is going to be fascinating. Reincarnation, yes, to a degree. We're looking into other folklore and phenomena as well, such as fairies. We're looking at portals. It's all these things that are a bit of a sort of no to people or a no-go to people. We're like, okay, it's fair game. We'll go and have a look, because people clearly believe in it and have a lot to say about it. So that's again worthy of our investigation. But that's what's so much fun about it. We can get from any other TV show back to
sorry, I noticed somebody in the chat mentioned UAPs as well, which is a hot one at the moment. So that would be an obvious thing to go down.
Well, I'm really keen on the C5. I think Craig's hopefully going to do us. Is that right, John? Is it called C5?
It's CE5, the sort of guided meditation. And I've seen bits of it done online, but not much. Karin's done some with Craig, and it's fascinating. And Craig Williams as well. He's been going through a lot of meditative training, and he kind of feels like he's coming out as a Jedi Master at the moment. So we're really interested to see where he's going to take some things. Got a lot of things coming up with Craig, and he's really interested in that area. Again, we'll go at it naively and just ask all the questions and poke around a little bit, but the floor will be over to him if we do a CE5 experiment. I mean, the problem, we tried to do a CE5 experiment a long time ago at Walton Castle, which was really odd because it was a really cloudy, overcast night. We couldn't do it, and then we went into Tower 8 and did the round table seance, which people like Kev Kerr didn't want to do, but then that's the one where it delivered the poltergeist experience, which was, a happy byproduct of we were actually trying to do CE5 that night. So it's on the cards. We'd love to do it. Absolutely interested in all that stuff. There's loads of weird things happening at the moment, that boogosphere and things, it's like, it's intriguing, and there's lots of predictions of things that may or may not happen this year and all that. It's all on the table, isn't it, really, for us to go after. But yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Christian, one last thing from you. Do you have anything?
No, I think the one thing you guys touched on there, and Paul Rogers touched it as well, is the UAP topic. I mean, it is so hot right now because, of course, all the stuff that's happening in the United States with this disclosure. I mean, I think the Age of Disclosure documentary comes out, I think it's the 21st of November. That's going to certainly tickle a few things up in Washington. But I guess over here, the UK takes a different stance to UAP in terms of the government perspective. But the experiences that people report are, they are similar. They are certainly, the encounters that people appear to have are very, very interesting. And the fact that there is such a tie-in to people who have poltergeist experiences, the kind of people who have the close experiences appear to mirror certainly the poltergeist interdimensionality with that. And it may be one and the same phenomena, but it's currently being looked at as two separate topics. So that'd be really interesting to see if you get stuck into that in terms of the future. But in terms of where we are tonight, I think it's been an amazing hour and a half time to spend with you. I mean, the Supernatural UK, I've seen you guys over the last few months kind of bloom up a little bit. I've seen your popularity, your videos rise and those views come in. So definitely wishing you all the best of what comes out of this. I think everyone who was here tonight is going to be looking at your videos with certainly a lot of interest, and they'll be certainly following you and what's coming up and being all new subscribers to you, and they'll be echoing that out to many more members that we have within ourselves and beyond ASSAP. But, if there's anything we can do to help, let us know and we'll help.
Thank you so much. That's amazing.
That's great. Thanks for having us on. That's great.
Just for our outro, John, where can people reach you if they've got any further questions for you?
We try not to engage too much with comments on YouTube directly, because everybody's got things to say. We get involved if it's something that's derogatory towards people, then we remove it. Other than that, we don't, good or bad, we just don't tend to engage on YouTube. So we're trying to move more towards Substack and just get a conversation and a community going there. So that we can have some, we will answer questions there, and we're trying to raise topics and get some conversation going over there, really. We've also got some, what we hope are really quite exciting new things coming out that are separate to the series. So we've got some new tech that we're going to be pioneering quite soon and giving that a go, and we're going to send all that to Substack, so it's separate. So I don't know exactly what the URL is, I'm afraid, but it'll be the Supernatural UK Substack. Thereabouts. Just go to Substack and look for the Supernatural UK. I'm sure you'll find us. It's very, very, very embryonic just now, but that's where we want conversations to take place. I'm not really Facebook, neither's Andy. Instagram, there's a little bit of chat that goes on Instagram, but not too much. YouTube, we don't really want to get involved just because, as I say, it can get a bit heated at times. We'd rather remove ourselves from that. So yeah, Substack is where we like to be.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. So from us here at Seriously Strange, on our webinar on a Thursday night, on behalf of ASSAP, thank you again to John and to Andy for coming along and doing a guest panel for us. It's been wonderful having you guys and hosting you. Any time in the future you'd like to come back and do another talk or another chat to promote something, please get in contact and we'd be more than willing to host you again.
Thank you very much.
So who do we have on next week? We've got Andrew Wedgbury, and his talk is going to be The Ghosts of the Urban Weird, Folklore, Fairies and Domestic Spirits of the Digital Age. So that's it from me. Christian, do you want to out us?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, actually, you guys really should talk to Andrew Wedgbury. He has some really interesting concepts and ideas. Obviously, he's a university lecturer, so he has some really interesting projects and the wings. We've got 2 webinars up, so if you want to go check those out on our YouTube channel, he was certainly going to be flooding you with some interesting ideas. But no, as from us here tonight then, from Seriously Strange and ASSAP Paranormal Webinars live on a Thursday, thank you very much for joining us. Halloween tomorrow then. We all survived 3-Eye Atlas yesterday and today. The aliens didn't come, unfortunately. We're still here. But as far as everyone's going to go, make sure you've got a Halloween and have some fun this weekend, whatever you guys are going to get up to. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Happy Halloween.
All right, absolutely.
Happy Halloween. Thank you so much.
Thank you.